Move aside.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Sir, okay na sir?
Okay.
Live lo
Right, madam. Okay. Happy evening to everybody. Today, our senior and eminent, excellent teacher Archana Garu going to discuss the one topic from the third unit, that is circulation, transportation of the materials. In the part of online classes, our teacher K. Archana from Telangana Model School, PGT in Zoology, she is going to discuss the topic mechanism of water transportation in plants. So students, listen carefully and write the notebooks. Okay, madam. Thank you. Thank you so much to coming this platform to share your knowledge. Okay, madam. Over to Archana, madam. Take over the stage.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Welcome to DCEB Suryapet DEO Khammam YouTube channel, SSC Biology online class. First, let me introduce myself. I am K. Archana, working as TGT Science in Telangana State Model School and Junior College, Karepalli Village, Singareni Mandal, Khammam District. Good morning to Biological Forum members and my dear children. So children, today I am going to explain you about the mechanism of water transport in plants.
Right arrow.
Madam, next slide రావట్లేదు.
Right arrow. Please click right arrow.
క్లిక్ చేస్తున్నా సార్.
Down arrow. Or enter. ఏదైనా ఎంటర్ చేయండి.
నెక్స్ట్ స్లైడ్.
సార్ నేను చేయనా?
నెక్స్ట్
ఒక
స్లైడ్
నిమిషం
రావట్లేదు.
ప్లీజ్. ఎంటర్ ఎంటర్.
బ్యాక్ వెళ్ళండి.
Down arrow. Or enter. ఏదైనా ఎంటర్ చేయండి. Enter enter.
Okay sir, now it is coming. Sir, shall I start?
Please.
Please start, madam.
Okay, sir. Okay, children, before I start my class, first let us know about water absorption in plants. As we all know that in plants, the roots absorb water from the soil, and from the root, water passes to the stem, leaves, and to the other parts of the plant. Now, here in this picture, we can see the structure of a root. The tip of the root is called root cap. And above the root cap, if we see, there are very fine microscopic structures called root hairs. These root hairs, they extend into the soil, and these root hairs absorb water through a process called osmosis. The water that entered into the root, from there it passes through the xylem to the stem, leaves, and to all the other parts of the plant. Now, what is root pressure? It is the transverse osmotic pressure within the cells of a root system that causes sap to rise through a plant stem to the leaves. Root pressure occurs when the soil moisture is high, either at night or when transpiration is low during the day. Transpiration. We already learned about the transpiration in the earlier classes. So what is transpiration? Plants release excess water from their body through stomata of leaves and lenticels of stem. The water is released in the form of vapor, and this process is called transpiration. Curtis, a biologist, quoted transpiration as a necessary evil. Now, what is the importance of transpiration? Why is transpiration necessary to plants? Transpiration is necessary because it helps in the conduction of water and minerals to different parts of the plants. It maintains osmosis and keeps the cells rigid. The extra water from the plant cells goes out in the form of water vapor through transpiration. Now, to know whether really transpiration takes place in plants or not, let us do the following activity. Now, for this activity, we have to select a well-watered plant that has been growing in the sun. Now, here in this picture, you can see a small potted plant. This experiment has to be done on a bright sunny day to get good result. Now, what we have to do is enclose a leafy branch of the plant. And if the plant is small, you can entirely cover the plant in a polythene bag and tie up its mouth. Keep the plant in the sun. After a few hours, observe the inner surface of the polythene bag. We can observe droplets of water on the inner surface of the polythene bag. See children, here also in this picture you can see small water droplets on the inner surface of the polythene bag. Now from where do these droplets has come? These droplets are the result of transpiration done by the plant. Now whatever excess water is present in this plant, that water got evaporated. That water went out in the form of water vapor from the stomata of leaves. And that water vapor touched the inner surface of this polythene bag. And that water vapor got turned into water droplets. So this experiment clearly proves that transpiration is done by plants and trees. Now, we know that plants do transpiration, but there is a variation in the amount of water the plants transpire. So how much of water is transpired by plants? Here are a few examples where you can see how much water is transferred by different plants. An oak tree transpires 900 liters of water per day. A maize plant transpires 50 liters per week. A big mango tree will transpire from 750 to more than 3,500 liters of water per day. Is there any relation between transpiration and rainfall? Yes, there is a relation between transpiration and rainfall. Generally, rainfall will be high in the forest areas. The reason is, in the forest region, we find more number of trees, and all those trees, when they do transpiration, all that water will be released in the form of water vapor, which enters into the atmosphere and forms clouds. So when air currents bring air, which is already nearly saturated to a forest area, it becomes fully saturated and comes down as rain. This is why forest areas often have a higher rainfall than areas nearby. Now, root pressure, it can transport water and dissolved mineral nutrients from roots through the xylem to the tops of short plants when transpiration is low or zero. And root pressure will be high in some seasons and sometimes it will be nil. In the forest area, we find many tall trees which are several meters high, like Shorea species, eucalyptus species, etc. Now, when the root pressure is nil, a doubt arises like how does the water reach 180 meters high to the top of a tree like a eucalyptus? When the leaves transpire, there is a pulling effect on the continuous columns of water in the xylem vessels. The top ends of these vessels are surrounded by the leaves mesophyll cells which contain cell sap. So, the water is continuous from the xylem vessels to the walls of the mesophyll cells from which it evaporates into the air spaces causing the pull. The water column does not break because of its continuous molecular attraction. Now, children, in this picture, we can see a diagram showing root hair zone, and this is the region of water absorption. Water is absorbed by osmosis from the soil by the root hairs. This is passed into the xylem vessels, which form a continuous system of tubes through root and stem into the leaves. Here, the water evaporates and releases into the atmosphere. The evaporation creates the main pull of water above root pressure, which gives a variable and minor push from below. This results in a continuous column of moving water, the transpiration stream. Now, coming to nutrients. We all know that along with water, plants also require some nutrients for its growth. And these nutrients are obtained from the soil. So biologists, they divided the nutrients that are required for plant growth into two groups. Those two groups are macronutrients and micronutrients. Now first we'll see about macronutrients. Macronutrients. Macro means large. So nutrients that are taken by plants in larger amounts are called macronutrients. There are mainly 9 macronutrients, and those are carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and sulfur. Now micronutrients. Micro means small. Nutrients that the plant takes in smaller amounts are called micronutrients. Those are iron, manganese, boron, molybdenum, zinc, copper, chlorine, sodium, cobalt, and silicon. Now, how these mineral salts are transported? Mineral salts are necessary for plant growth. They are obtained from the soil solution through the root hairs, and these salts are in the form of electrically charged ions like sodium chloride in the form of Na plus and Cl minus, magnesium sulfate in the form of Mg+2 and SO4-2. Once ions are absorbed, these ions travel along with water in the xylem vessels and pass to the growing points of the plants where they are used for growth purpose. Now children, in this picture we can see xylem vessel and phloem vessel. The xylem and phloem are together called as vascular tissues, which are present both in angiosperms and gymnosperms. As you know that xylem is responsible for conduction of water and minerals. Now in this picture you can see a one-way flow of water and minerals, that is from downwards, that is from root to upwards. A unidirectional flow of water and minerals. Now coming to phloem vessel. Now phloem is responsible for conduction of food materials in the plants, and here we can see a bidirectional flow, that is from downwards to upwards and from upwards to downwards. So two-way flow we can see. Xylem is a complex tissue which is made up of several cells like tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma and xylem fibers. And phloem is also a complex tissue. It is also made up of several cells like sieve elements, companion cells, parenchyma and sclerenchyma. Transport of materials in plants. Now we already know that photosynthesis takes place in the green parts of plants, mainly the leaves, and that food has to be transported to all the living cells, especially to actively growing cells and the cells which stores food. The veins of a leaf consist of xylem and phloem, and these tissues are continuous with the stem. As we know that xylem is responsible for conduction of water, to study about the conduction of food materials by phloem, it became difficult for the biologist because the phloem sieve tubes are extremely small and the analysis of their contents is not easy. So biologists, they took the help of an insect called aphid. Now in this picture we can see a aphid, a green fly. We generally find these aphids clustering around the young stems of plants as they feed on the plant juices. And to obtain this juice, this insect has a long needle-like organ called proboscis. With the help of this proboscis, it pierces the plant tissues and sucks the plant juice. Now, the biologists did an experiment to find out whether phloem conducts food materials or not with the help of aphids. Now, here in this picture, we can see an aphid pierced its hollow organ called proboscis into the phloem. The first layer is xylem and the next to xylem is phloem, and here you can see this proboscis. Now the experiment the biologist did is, an aphid is killed in the act of feeding and the body is then carefully cut away, leaving the hollow proboscis still inserted into the phloem. It is found that because the contents of the phloem sieve tubes are under slight pressure, the fluid slowly exudes from the cut end of the proboscis in the form of drops. These drops are then collected and analyzed, and the fluid is found to contain sugars and amino acids. So this experiment proves that phloem conducts food materials in the plants. Then biologists, they also did another experiment, that is ringing experiment, to find out whether phloem conducts food materials or not. Now for this, we have to select a tree having a bark. Now, after selecting a tree having a bark, they started removing the layers of tissues from the center outwards, including the phloem. After a few days, when the tissues above and below the ring were analyzed, it was shown that food had accumulated above the ring but was not present below it. And if it is left for some more time, you can see an increase in the thickness of the stem above the ring. See, in this picture we can see an increase in the thickness of the stem above the ring, but there is no increase in the thickness of the stem below the ring. The reason is all the food material got accumulated here, and hence there is an increase in the thickness of the stem. So any damage to the phloem all around the stem will prevent the food from passing down to the roots, and the tree will eventually die. So this experiment also clearly proves that phloem is responsible for conduction of food materials in plants. Now, as we came to know that phloem conducts food materials, there are some animals in the forest like owls or rabbits which scratch the bark of trees to get the food stored in the phloem, especially during hard winters when food is scarce. So foresters, to protect those young samplings in the forest areas, they take certain measures, like they enclose new plantations with wire netting to prevent rabbits from entering. And foresters also encourage predators such as foxes, hawks, and owls, as they help to keep down the population of owls and rabbits. So children, finally the third chapter is completed. Now once we'll see what we have learnt from today's class. Root pressure is the transverse osmotic pressure within the cells of a root system that causes sap to rise through a plant stem to the leaves. The process by which plants release excess water from their body through stomata of leaves and lenticels of stem is called transpiration. Water travels through xylem vessels and food material travels through phloem tissues. There is a relation between transportation and transpiration in plants. Biologists studied about phloem tubes with the help of aphids. I thank DEO sir of Khammam, then Biological Science Forum members and the technical team for supporting me in giving this presentation, and a special thanks to Biological Science Forum Khammam District President Repala Srinivas Rao sir, ZPHS Perupalli, for motivating and encouraging me in giving this presentation. Thank you everyone.